So that last video left off discussing the glycemic index. Um, so in managing diabetes and bolusing with insulin throughout the day, especially after eating, we're concerned with carbohydrates to calculate and administer the right amount of insulin to keep blood sugar levels stable. And as the video mentioned, all carbohydrates are not quite created equal in regards to how much and how quickly they raise the blood sugar. This is explained by the glycemic index, which was introduced in that video. So a little more information regarding the glycemic index. The glycemic index, or GI, indicates how a food containing carbohydrates raises blood sugar. Foods are ranked based on how they compare to a reference food, commonly glucose, or which is a plain sugar, or white bread. Foods with a high GI raise the blood glucose more than foods with a medium or low GI. Making healthy food choices for managing blood sugar and diabetes requires choosing foods with a low or medium GI. When eating a high GI food, it can be balanced by eating a low GI for a healthy meal. Dairy items such as milk and yogurt contain the sugar lactose and therefore do have carbohydrates and a glycemic index. Meats and fat don't have a real glycemic index reading because they do not contain carbohydrates. Some common Hispanic examples of carbohydrate-containing foods with low GI include dried beans like black or kidney beans, all non-starchy vegetables such as squash, peppers, lettuce, and cabbage, some starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes, most fruits, and many whole grains such as brown rice and quinoa. So these might be some things that you and your family cook at home or you often find at the store. So here's a graph on how high and low GI foods affect blood sugar. You can see a high GI food here in the dark blue will spike blood sugar and then quickly fall. A spike into hyperglycemia and then a crash into hypoglycemia. Now compared to low GI in the green, you can see it raises the blood sugar level slightly and then with a slight decrease, but for the most part, for 2 hours, blood sugar remains pretty steady. Now this graph might vary slightly for diabetes, but the main principles still apply. Here's another diagram reinforcing that information, showing high GI foods, here like such as crackers, spike the blood sugar, releasing energy faster, and then decreasing quickly, which is you feeling hungry sooner and then ultimately eating more food. And then on the opposite side, low GI food such as a carrot or other vegetable, you see that energy is released slowly, leaving you feeling full longer and then ultimately eating less. So the range of glycemic spans from 0 to 100. Low GI is classified as less than 55, medium between 55 and 69, and high glycemic index is 70 or higher. So in choosing carbohydrate-rich foods, the goal is to primarily eat the low GI and medium GI, low most often, medium in moderation, and high glycemic index sparingly. All right, for the next few minutes, we're going to perform a hands-on activity in groups of 2. This activity is going to combine the previous 2 topics we've discussed, digestion and glycemic index, and we're going to focus on 3 foods ranging from low to high GI. So for the low glycemic index, we are using lettuce, which has a glycemic index of 10. For medium, we're looking at bananas with a glycemic index of 58. And for a high glycemic index food, we're going to look at white rice with a glycemic index of 83. So for each pair, you will get a small portion of lettuce, rice, and banana. And you'll get a cup, some water, some vinegar, and a fork. So like the first step of digestion, you're going to tear up or mush each food in an individual glass, like this picture showing above, and then you're going to add a little bit of water to cover the food in the glass. This represents the saliva in the mouth as the first part of chemical digestion. Your cup should look similar, and go ahead and give it a couple extra mushes with your fork to kind of make sure everything's blending and kind of simulate what chewing would be like in your mouth. All right, next we're going to add a little bit of vinegar to represent stomach acid after food is swallowed and reaches the stomach. After you add the vinegar, continue to mush the mixture just as the stomach churns the food during digestion. All right, your mixture should begin to look similar to this picture. As you can see, the lettuce remains pretty intact and identifiable after this stage of digestion from the mouth to the stomach. The fiber in the lettuce helps to keep its shape and contributes to the low uptake of sugar into the bloodstream, since sugar molecules are bound tightly in the fiber of the lettuce. This helps to explain and demonstrate how and why this is a low glycemic food and doesn't have a severe spiking effect on your blood sugar. Next, take a look at the banana, which has the medium glycemic index. And you can see there's still some small chunks and fibers from the banana flesh. The fiber again shows the release and absorption, slows the release and absorption of sugar into the blood. And then lastly, the high glycemic index food, the rice. As you can see, the grains of rice are pretty much dissolved in the water and vinegar solution. The simple breakdown of digestion of the rice allows for sugars to be available to be absorbed into the bloodstream quickly, causing the blood sugar to spike, as illustrated in those previous slides. Now, to apply this knowledge to insulin and blood sugar management. As you have all done and worked on with your doctor, is your specific insulin to carbohydrate ratio. There are a few ways that you and your doctor can determine which ratio is best for you in maintaining your diabetes. Here's a chart just representing the weight method to determine basic insulin to carb ratios. This approach is based on the general observation that insulin sensitivity decreases as body size increases. Therefore, each unit of insulin will cover fewer carbohydrates in a heavier person than a lighter person. So the smaller the person, the less insulin they need. So for the purpose of this class and upcoming exercise, we're going to use the ratio of 1 to 12 right in the middle of this table. All right, so using the insulin to carbohydrate ratio of 1 to 12, we now calculate the insulin need for each of the foods from the previous activity. This ratio means that for every 12 grams of carbohydrates, you need 1 unit of insulin to maintain blood sugar levels. So first, we look at the high glycemic index food, which would be the rice, which for a 1 cup serving has 45 grams of carbohydrates. To calculate the needed insulin, we will divide 45 by 12, which gets us the answer of 3.75 units of insulin. Next is one medium banana, which has 27 grams of carbohydrates. So we then divide 27 by 12 to get 2.25 units of insulin. And then lastly is 1 cup of lettuce, which has only 1 gram of carbohydrates. So 1 divided by 12 equals 0.083, which we can round down and say that no units of insulin are needed. So looking across the span of calculated insulin needs for each of these 3 foods, we can see that the higher the glycemic index, the more insulin is needed to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. This further supports the picture of spiking blood sugar after eating a high glycemic index food. Now, again, we turn back to that My Plate diagram, and I'm handing out a list of foods spanning across what the glycemic index looks like. Sorry, extra slides there. So here is your list you each have in front of you. You've got categories such as breakfast cereals, breads, vegetables, fruits, snacks, and sweet items, different staple items, which would include your rice and grains, beans, and then dairy. So with this diagram and the My Plate, take 5 minutes to fill in the fruit, vegetable, and whole grain sections of the plate with foods that you may be able to find and eat at home. And remember to focus on the low and medium glycemic index food. And again, we're not focusing on that protein section because proteins don't contain carbohydrates and are not going to affect your blood sugar like fruits, vegetables, and grains would. So go ahead and take that time to fill that out, and then you can have that as a reference moving forward when you go home and make your own meals. All right, and then to continue to make all of this relevant, I have put together a brief list of healthy and easy snacks for you to have on hand when you feel hungry or notice your blood sugar going low. These snacks are good choices because they include low or medium glycemic index food and healthy fats and protein to help you feel full and your blood sugar remain stable. Again, you'll have a copy of this to take home with you at the end of the day today.